Good evening. Welcome to I Choose Me, where we agree with God about who we are. Tonight's show is a very sensitive show. It's a very much needed show. We're talking about grief. It's the holidays, and during the holiday season, many of us suffer with loss, bereavement overload, grief overload, just thinking about our loved ones, and of course, wishing that they were still here. But for the first segment of the show, I have two ladies here who lost their sons to gun violence. And I just kind of want to read a statistic to you about this, that as of October 2023, statistics regarding gun violence, of course, among young Black men is a concerning trend, and it has been for many years. It's not new. It says gun violence is the leading cause of death for young Black men aged 15 to 24 in the United States, but of course, all over, and especially in impoverished neighborhoods and areas. There's many reasons this occur, but what I want to do is we can start with my sister Raquel. Everyone first can just introduce themselves and share why you're here tonight, other than the fact that I asked you to come or we just was talking. Either is to help someone else or just to share your story or just to share the space you're in.
Okay. My name is Raquel. I am originally from Detroit. I live in Savannah, Georgia. Um, I've been here for about 3 years, almost. So I don't. I mean, if I'm here to hopefully shed some light on gun violence and in our community, our young Black kings that are being gunned down by each other. I mean, it's when I think about, I have friends that live in Detroit, and out of 20 of my friends, there are 10 of us that have lost their sons. So, that's alarming because, it shouldn't be that close of a number. My son was killed in 2016 in December 1st. As a matter of fact, anniversary is coming up on 8 years. And we still haven't closed the case. There's an issue and a problem with the cold cases in Detroit with them solving cases. Nobody wants to snitch, I guess, as they call it. And they're just murderers still out there just killing each other, and they're getting away with it, and so it's not stopping. um I did everything that I could do, to bringing my children up in Detroit, and as the neighborhoods got worse, I moved. And when he went to high school, um, I put him in a Catholic high school, and just to get him away from all of the stuff that was going on. But I still couldn't protect him as an adult. He died at 26, and it's still, it's still very it's just an uneasy feeling. It hurts. I mean, if I could help somebody else, the way I would let them know I'm a believer in God, and I know that He's brought me through. And it's it's like it's not a pain that just goes away. It sticks to you. This year I decided to come off of social media as the time got close to the day of his, or anniversary of his death, because it's just too many memories and things that come up that I just don't want to see. And it's not to say that it's just easier not to see it. And so I try to move forward in my everyday life. He has a daughter, which I'm thankful for. She just turned 11. So we try to keep his memory alive. As far as, did you say anything about, you wanted us to, did you want me to
Well,
say
I
anything
just want
about?
you to start off by introducing yourself. We can go
I'm
to
sorry.
Monique. And you fine. We just talking.
Yeah.
Um, okay, well, my name is Monique. Um, I currently live in Detroit.
Speak up a little louder, please.
My name is Monique. I currently live in Detroit, and I'm a mom of four children. Unfortunately, my oldest son was gunned down. Um, had nothing to do with him. He was trying to be a peacemaker, and he caught all the bullets, and he died January the 22nd, 2022. I believe that God is a healer, and He gives us all the strength to continue to be strong for yourself and, be strong for your family. But He left behind three girls, 11, 3, and 11, 4, and 2. So we currently take care of them. So I wanted to get involved in a legacy that could help carry his name for pregnant moms who lost
Take your time. You come a long way. God has been good. Just take your time. We got a whole hour. We here for support.
I wanted to do a legacy in his name
Mm-hmm.
for families who struggle with this. His girlfriend was pregnant with the last baby, and she don't get the support that she's deserved because somebody took his life. So we help out him. I take care of my grandbabies, but I mean, just to get out there and encourage other parents that we can be strong. We just have to stay close to God
Mm-hmm.
and therapy. It works.
Mm-hmm. I know you were at. I saw you. Were you at some type of march, or what was it that you were doing like a month or so ago? Tell us a little bit about that.
In September, we went to Washington. The Crime Stoppers. I mean, not Crime Stoppers, Crime Survivors walk in Michigan. I mean, in Washington. And we marched to pass bills for funding for a lot of survivors and their families that's been involved due to gun violence, sex trafficking, human trafficking, domestic violence, and abuse. So I'm with this organization, the Luke Legacy, and she invited us to go to the march. I normally do it in Lansing, but this year they were doing it in Washington. So we went and we all met up and we marched in front of all the way to like close to the Capitol.
Mm.
Just praying. But I love it because everybody is there, and it's just you 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 free to grieve there too. It was just amazing to see so many people holding each other up, holding their loved ones on pictures and everything. We're all there for pretty much the same thing. and it's like a support group if needed. So
Mm.
that's what we did. It was heartbreaking, but I mean, it's not. I don't think it's never gonna stop hurting. But I'm better than what I used to be.
Mm-hmm. That's good. I was so proud of you when I seen it. I was like, you couldn't imagine just a year ago that you would have come as far as you have. And that was really, I can imagine it being real empowering for you to do that march. Because I was like,
Yeah.
look at her. She out there making a difference. And that's what we have to do. So we
Yeah.
have another guest, and we still have Dion to introduce herself. But Kevin, thank you for joining us tonight. What they have done is introduce themselves and talk about their loved one they've lost their sons. Each of you have lost sons, and so just kind of share a little bit about that, how long it's been, how far you've come, and we'll go from there.
You want to share?
Um, I'm here too, Christal. I'm not sure if you can see me, but my name is Faith Peterson, and Lawan was my son. He was killed. He was in Alabama when he was killed going to school. He was robbed. That was in 2007, and it's still hard. It's still hard. It's not as hard. God has brought me from a long way. Crystal knows. Dr. C knows is what I Dr. C. But yeah, God has truly brought me from a long, long way. From when it first happened, I was so angry and hurt and went through so many different emotions. Uh, to from I couldn't believe it to why to I wasn't able to be there because I was here in Michigan and he was in Alabama. That bothered me, but I think that's the way God wanted it to happen because I may not have been able to deal with it had I been there. So, like I said, God's just brought me a long way, and I just thank
He
Him.
sure has. Thank you, Jesus. No, I mean that's real because I
Yeah,
just remember your anger, and I said, Faith, say whatever you need to say. I know Dion and I are here. Of course, the hosting our nephews. Her nephew was murdered. My nephew, Rocky, is my sister, was murdered. And so it's my sister was murdered. Um, but focusing on the black men and the tragedy behind it, just to see your face, Faith. Because when I tell y'all she ain't want to hear nothing about Jesus at all.
at all.
Mhm.
And I just commend you for being here. Hey, Kevin, Elder.
Hey, how are you?
Good. Thank you for coming on.
Well, absolutely. Again, I was amazed that Faith even stepped up to say anything. So I'm very, very proud of her and what it is that we have to do. And I know they gave me the title elder, but when my son was killed, I was just being ordained as a deacon. Had no idea I'd be where I am today. But it's still, as for a man, it's still, it really bothers me, and I go through my own moments. Matter of fact, I was going through my own moment this morning because it's Thanksgiving, and as my wife said, we're a lot better than we were. But as I share with the brothers that this thing that we have with each other, that we're too tough, we're too strong, we can't cry, all of that. That was my son, and so what I've been able to do over this journey in a short time is to be able to turn his life around as a living legacy. And so I fight. Just left a non-violent situation, a group where we're fighting to help put a hold to that, to touch families like the families that's on this line. I want my son's life to live on forever, and as long as I am here, and the things that we want to put in place that he's never forgotten. So that's my portion as a father. And so as I continue to lock arms with my wife, and we both heal. As I heard someone say, I don't know if we'll ever be totally healed, but we'll learn the coping mechanisms and the tools and get the strength to keep on. And so I believe at first, when we first heard it, it was for somebody else. I said, I think God should have asked me if I wanted to testify to somebody else first before he signed me up for this, because I didn't sign up for this. But it's been enlightening to so many other people to see how many years honey now? 17. We had to go. We had to go to Alabama not long ago because the guy that murdered our son was trying to get out of prison, and so we went there for the hearing. I thought I was going to speak, but the lady you just heard spoke, and after she spoke, I had not ever heard my wife speak like that, or my youngest son. And in 30 seconds, the people say, "Oh no, you're going back to where you came from." So I don't think I could have, elder and whatever, prayers. No one could have spoke more clearly than the pain and the hurt that those other women and the men heard when my wife spoke on that day to the I guess the to the board. So, but thank you for allowing me to share. Again, my goal is to continue to live the rest of my life talking about my son. My son was an educator. He wanted to be an African American kindergarten teacher. I don't know any of us know any African American men want to be a kindergarten teacher, but that's what he wanted. And so for education and life, that's what I'm using my life to support and build up. So thank you for having us on. And I'm praying for everybody on here because everybody has a different story. Some people say, hey, I know how you feel. No, you didn't know my son. Even if you may have had a son, my son and I had a different kind of relationship than anybody. And so I appreciate people saying what they hear other people say, but I've come to live and learn that it's tailor made. Your child, my child, we had different relationships. And so that's what I continue to honor. Thank you, Dr. Chris.
Thank you. So we have another guest, and I say elder, but as you corrected me, I'll let him correct me. But this is Elder Staples, who lost his son a few years back. So just introduce yourself and tell us your story or whatever you're led to share with us. And I'm glad that we have the from the male perspective, because oftentimes they don't get the platform. It's usually just what a mother goes through.
Right.
And so um, go forth.
Okay. Hi. So, hi everyone. My name is Damon, and I just want to share from, I guess you said, like a male perspective. Actually, January 1 will be the 7th year anniversary of my son's death. Um, and as I think it was spoken, I heard pieces of it. Um, as for me, when I got the call, I think my sister's on now. I think she's the one that called me to give me the information. As a man, I didn't know how to grieve. Um, there was a numbness, but how to actually feel, I had no idea. And part of that's because of how we were brought up. As men, we were not allowed to be in touch with our emotions, because that meant that as a man, you were weak. And so for me, it took a moment for me to even connect enough to realize and connect to the amount of pain that caused. So I'll just stop there for a moment, and we can go from there.
Well, thank you for being here. This is just a conversation. It's free to grieve, which Monique and I and Larice, Dion, we did that probably about a year ago every Monday night, because I think as a community, we don't have the freedom to grieve. You
Hmm.
know, the expectation is to just keep going. And that's not authentic. That's not real life. How do you keep going when someone has taken your child?
Right.
And I'll let Dion introduce herself, because we don't have that story, but our sibling does. which impact us. Therefore, we have that pain as well. Of course, it's different, but it's still pain from having your nephew gunned down. And so, Dion.
Um, I was trying not to say anything. Good evening. My name is Dion Wallace, and that's my brother, Elder Damon Staples. No, I did not lose a child, but he was my nephew. He was like one of my sons,
Mm-hmm.
and the fact that it happened was just detrimental. But the fact that I received the phone call and I had to make the hardest phone call of my life
Mm-hmm.
to my brother, and that broke me. And I don't think anybody understood the capacity of that. Besides the fact that my nephew got murdered, and I got the phone call, and I had to break my brother's heart, you know, and it was just a lot. And I had to be the one to get to my father and my mother and my kids before social media. Social media is not great. Everybody wanted to be the first person to post and say stuff, but um, it was just it was a lot, and it's still a lot. And I go through a lot about it, but I don't say anything because I know that as a parent, y'all suffer more greatly than anybody ever could. But as the auntie and as my brother's sister, it pains me, And so I don't say a lot. Even when we did the grief and loss, we was on these. I didn't say a lot because I felt like everybody's pain was just so much deeper than mine, and I just didn't want to minimize it. But losing my nephew was one of the worst things that ever happened to me, and I have my days. I don't talk about it a lot, but I still struggle with it. And so I pray for my brother, and I'm proud of my brother because in spite of it all, he still finds a way to go on. And I know that he goes through his own private sadness because, like he said, we was raised to, um, even me as a woman, I was raised to, don't wear your feelings on your sleeve. And people want to tell you to get over it. And what does that mean? And how do you have the audacity to tell somebody to get over something that was detrimental and traumatizing to them? You know? So I really tried not to talk. I know she knew
You
that.
have to talk. It's a podcast. We talk. We gotta share our
I
hearts
know, I get
and
it.
our
It's a
thoughts, whether
podcast.
we cry,
Well,
laugh.
I say that because I still have my sons. So
I
that's
get it.
that's what I'm talking about.
I understand that.
And and I can imagine their pain, but I don't feel that. But I feel my own pain. And so, when I was getting on the grief and loss, it was helping me because I was able to, when I did speak, it was accepted and it was okay. And it wasn't judged or, minimized. So that's why I'm here. I'm here as a support. Uh I remember being in court and my brother, asking me to speak, but I was like, what? But I asked God to just help me. I can vaguely remember what I talked about, but all I know is that I just remember the judge giving these instructions and telling us that we couldn't look at the person who did what he did and he changed our life. They give them those rights. But I remember walking in the courtroom and prior to that, and I seen some people there, and I have a little discernment, and I felt like those were his family members. So I sat behind them, directly behind them, So when he came out and he looked at them, he would have to look at me, and I would get a chance to look him in his eyes, whether the judge allowed me to do that or not. I did it on my own. So when I got up there to speak, and God just spoke to me. He spoke to me while I was standing there, and he would not allow me to carry hatred in my heart for this person because I was carrying some stuff. But God wouldn't allow me to do it. And from that point on, like I told them, I don't hate this man. All I know is that people need to understand the difference when they say two families are affected. They are affected, but in different ways. It's not the same because they get to go visit their family member in prison or wherever they are, and they still get to see them and talk to them and love on them. We don't get that. That's the difference. If somebody lost a son, a father, a brother, a nephew, a grandson, whatever, a cousin, and so, but what God showed me was it's okay to feel the way that we feel, but we don't have to worry about hating people because He'll fight our battles for us. So I'm just grateful to be able to have been there for my brother and my family, and I know it was God to help me do it, you know. But I'm just glad to be able to have these platforms. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll say this, and then we'll have to take a break. When we come back, though, I want to who were your kids? Who were your, tell us about the type of people they were. But I want to say to my sister, one of my memories of little Steve was at the church. And I looked up, I said, that's my nephew joining. And so I got up and ran down and gave him a hug. And so I'm grateful that I know that he gave his life to Christ. And so that's something to hold on to,
Yeah.
even though it's difficult. And being a sister of someone who lost their child or a sibling, we on the outside, we feel helpless.
Yeah.
And so the most we could do is just listen. And I just want to say that this is a place to grieve and just say whatever needs to be said. And the goal is to keep their name as the legacy. What is the legacy? So we're going to take a quick break just to breathe and come back and share more about your sons who you've lost in the physical.
Yeah.
But I know there's a plan for them to be remembered forever.
Can I ask a question before we drop off for that break?
Yes.
I just want to ask you, and then I want to thank Dion, and I want to. I'm constantly, I got a new brother now, and Damon.
Thank
I'm
you.
hearing that it was just a blessing to have a sister feeling a brother's pain because,
Yeah.
and Christal, I don't know, Dr. Christal, I'm about to tear up now because I don't know it's because of what as a minister they thought that and Christal, you came to me many times to say you get to grieve too,
Right.
but to have a sister to say I know my brother's hurting, my pain, it's just amazing to me.
Yeah.
Not one family member called me
Wow.
on a regular basis to pray for me or say I'm thinking about you or you're hurt. I didn't get that, and it's sometimes I don't know. Crystal just said maybe they don't know what to say, maybe they don't want to say. I don't know what that issue is, but I had to learn to deal with that as well. So I don't know how to say it, but I just know that was a blessing to have your sister standing in the gaps with you, feeling that for you. So
Well,
Thank you.
go ahead. No, we can just keep going. Damon, you
I
can respond to that. Somebody.
I wanted to piggyback on Damon, I guess, and Kevin. I was
And I've been wanting y'all to meet for the longest, you and Damon.
Okay.
oh hi
How you doing?
I'm okay. I just want to say, of course, I'm praying for y'all. And
Likewise.
Stephen's father, he was there in Michigan when it happened, Detroit, and he had to go and identify him something that Kevin, that your wife Faye said I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. God knew that already, so He had me already in Georgia. But his father took on so much pain that I mean, it was just I saw him just transform, and he, ended up getting really sick and not seeing about himself, and he ended up dying of a heart attack.
Wow. Wow.
You know, and just around the same time uh, of his son's death. And it was just sad because he never got to see justice, and he was so, so torn, and he couldn't express his emotions like he wanted to. But I think he needed some men around him too that, like my sister said, a group, a support, somebody to talk to, because he internalized it so much, just as I did. But he was right there. He was right there. And, I just, it's just a blessing to see you guys here and, being able to talk about it and express it.
Thank
So thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And Dr. Easton, I want to say again, having this outlet is vital. I think this is needed because I'm learning how to deal with it every day. I don't know that I'll learn how to completely deal with it, but every day I try to make it a better day for the sake of the legacy of my son. I do want to thank my sister. I will say having that support, um, it meant a lot. I tried myself to and be strong, right? I wanted to be strong for my family. I want to be strong for the image sake of being strong. I'm a man of faith, and so I felt there was a conflict between my faith and what I was actually dealing with. And so what I tried to do was what we have been taught to do, deal with it on my own. I suppressed it. I tried to walk around with a smile on my face when there was a frown in my heart. And so I went back to work after coming to funeralize my son and just trying to go back to life as usual. And without having ever addressing my internal pain, because as I said earlier, I didn't know how to feel, how to grieve. Um, and what happened, I went on for a few days on my job, wanted to make sure that my family was good, but I didn't see about myself. And so on the job, that grief, it grabbed hold of me without my permission. And the things that I was suppressing, they came out uncontrollably. I'm sobbing, and so I ran to take cover. While I'm in the locker room, at that point, I knew I was in trouble. And again, my faith was strong, but this was bigger than me. And it was at that moment that I had to choose and make a decision. And therapy, up until that point, had been a taboo, especially in our generation and for Black men. We were to be strong. We didn't express emotions, uh, but what I was feeling, if I didn't get the help that I needed, I was not gonna make it out of it. And so after I was able to gather myself together, I left, and immediately I sought for therapy. And if I can say that was the best decision that I made in my life. It helped me to refocus. It helped me to to know I was okay for feeling what I was feeling, and I was still a man. I often read, and we've heard this as kids, Jesus wept. And that was just a thing we said before we ate our food, right? But I understood that when it said Jesus wept, it's ironic that it was dealing with grief. He saw the grief of others, and uh, it wasn't just a tear that came down, wet. It was bawling, right? So I said to myself, if Jesus could weep, so could I, and that changed my life forever.
Yeah. And I
Wow.
like I like to piggyback on what Brother Damien just shared because he and our stories are so similar. I went to prepare the plot for my son, and I went alone by myself. I was trying to preserve my wife and my family from what I was feeling. And it was 2 years later on Father's Day, I went to worship and I came back, and my wife said, "What happened?" And I realized that my son wasn't coming back. I had cried almost for 2 days, and my face looked like I had a fight with Mike Tyson.
Mm.
It was just that swole up.
Yeah.
So I then did what you did, brother. I'm in therapy right now, this
Amen.
moment. And when I testify to people, they say, "You a preacher? You a man? You in therapy?" When I said that publicly, there was a gentleman up in Flint asked me, he said, "Come tell your story because this is called the Strong Summit, and
Mm-hmm.
it's dealing with mental stability." And so I was as asked to come speak, but I'm like you, brother Damon. That is the best thing I have ever had. That therapist, and recently I had to change one to go to another, but I am so relieved. I am
Yeah.
so empty and just feel so good now that I do go to that. And I tell men as much as I can, that thing that was taught to us,
Yeah.
we need to we may want to take a look at it, unteaching and
Yes.
unpacking that thing that was taught to us.
Yes.
So thank you for sharing. I'm in therapy, and I'm not ashamed to tell anybody
That's right.
that I got
Save my
somewhere
life.
I can go now called a safe place.
Yes.
and
Amen.
they can hear me. So thank you again.
But
Yes.
I think what you both of you said, and Damon, when you said your faith was in conflict
Yeah.
with what you were feeling, I don't think we're allowed to have that conversation.
Right.
Like,
Right.
I know God loved me, this I know,
Right.
but I feel like he don't right now.
Right. Right.
I feel like, God, if you love me, why am I here?
Yeah.
And I think for so many people, and I'm gonna let Monique talk about this, that becomes that fight. Like, for some who may not can handle that fight,
Yeah.
it's, if you love me, God, like, if you
Yeah.
really do, why am I in this place? And I think the last time we went to a forgiveness uh summit or wherever we was at, and she couldn't agree with, we all are free now. She
Yeah.
couldn't, and I'm not trying to put you out there, but I think that was so powerful because we go through loss, other loss, our kids. Like, I still struggle on the holiday. Like,
Yeah.
God, why don't I have parents?
Yeah.
And so when your faith is in conflict with what you feel, like, how do we, Monique, can you share a little bit about that? Because I remember what you said the last time I saw you about your son's Facebook post.
So the night before he got killed, he posted, "No weapon formed against me shall prosper."
Wow.
So I questioned God. I said, well, wait a minute now. It did prosper. So
Mm.
what we doing?
Mm.
Why I gotta feel like, okay, now, I wrestled with God. I did. And I was like, listen, man, why? He wasn't arguing with nobody. He was telling his friend to come on, let's leave this restaurant. Why did he catch all 6 bullets in the back?
Mm.
And the guy turned himself in, and I'm God. He's steady whooping me, and I'm steady running to him about it because I'm like, I struggle with I-49
Mm-hmm.
because this man hurt us. We love God, you know. We praise God. We look for him. We try to be just and more like him. But saying no weapon formed against you shall prosper.
Yeah.
And it do.
Mm.
It's just hurt.
It-
Uh,
I'm gonna let one of the
I,
elders
I
go ahead.
would. I want to say that I understand that that level of thinking. As a preacher, my question was, what do you do when you're faced with what you preach? I
Ooh.
have so many eulogies, and everything that I shared with, I now was challenged to believe for myself, and that's not an easy battle, right? And I don't understand even to this day why my son, that I have three sons, that was my baby boy. Um, he was so much like me, yet so much different than me. Um, his mannerisms, his looks, the stubbornness, he was like me. Uh, but what was different is he was courageous. And for so many years of my life, I lived in fear of what people would think about me. Uh, Fear paralyzed me from doing all that God called me to do out of fear of failure. He also believed in himself. Anything that he set his mind to do, he felt he was more than able to do it. And for years, I struggled with believing in me. I could believe for you. I could believe healing God heal you for cancer, and I watched God do it. I could believe for whatever your condition was. But when it came to me, I struggled to believe that God can do it. And so I understand that train of thought. But what God showed me is that He is true to what He said. And even when I don't understand what He's doing, He really is always working things out for my good. And some things, the songwriter says, uh, we'll never understand down here, but we will understand it better by and by. And so with that kind of consoles me.
So we have a comment from Fred. He's one of the founders of Trailblazer Radio who lost a son. And the question he had for parents is, did you ever fail that you failed your children? That's what he struggled with during his grief process when he lost his son, that he failed his son.
I don't know if I ever felt that way. My wife may have something different, but I'm like what the brother was sharing here is that with my son, I got four sons. Okay, I'm blessed to have four sons, and I always tell people he was my number one son, even though he wasn't the oldest. It was because he was a father's son. My other sons, I'm no disrespect to my wife, they more attached to their mother. This one was more attached to me. If my sons would call him in college and say, "Hey, Dad, put us on the punishment," he'd say, "Well, let's talk about that." He asked them, "Well, what did y'all do for Dad to put y'all on the punishment?" He would stick up for me. If he came home and I'm in business and I have a digital camera, "Dad, how you in business? You don't have a camera." He come home and I'm on the computer. "You in business? You don't have a computer?" He just gave it to me. My sons be like, "He just gave that to you?" But he was that kind of loving child for me. He even told me some things I think about now when I was teaching him how to cut the grass. He said, he stuttered. You want to be teaching them because I'm gonna be going to college. And sure enough, guess who cut the grass now? Me, because they never learned.
Yeah.
so, so it was so many things that he touched me by his personality. And I'll tell you, he didn't argue back with his dad. Matter of fact, when he asked to go to Alabama State University, I said, "No, you're not going that far away because something happened." He did not open his mouth. He did not. He said, "Okay, Dad." So I was so moved that he didn't say anything that I started to pray. And God said, "Let's pray about it." So I told him a week later, I said, "I prayed about it. He said, you did? I said, God said that you can go. He said, he did? I'm like, yeah. I said, you're going to have to come back as a Sunday school teacher. He said, no problem. He was just glad to go, but he just never fought me on anything. Lastly, I'll say this. When he went to Crockett High School, Crockett did not have a basketball team. I am a coach. He said, Dad, how you going to send me to a school and you know you didn't coach me to play basketball and not let me go to a school that I said, we're going to pray about it. Pray about it. And he prayed about it. 1 year later, Crockett got a basketball team. And he was on the basketball team. But he just never argued with me about anything. I love that about him. You know, he just had a certain respect for his dad and the role model for a man in the family. And that's why I always call him my number one son. So thank you for allowing me to share. And thank you, Dr. Christal, because I don't know what this is doing, but I can tell you I wasn't expecting to say anything. But it just is allowing me to. I thank God for the therapy because now I can deal with my emotions. I can. It's okay for me to be me. I don't have to be like anybody else want me to be, and I can only be the best me I can be, and I'm all right with that. And so, thank you.
You're welcome. Kevin and I was got ordained together, and he has an amazing testimony. He is my brother as well, and he just sold out for Jesus. But because of his story, when I see him jitting at the front of the church, I have to praise God because I know what he's been through. Yeah. And so I just thank you for showing up. First of all, each of you who have endured such a loss, my heart is I can't really describe what I'm feeling having a son of my own and having I volunteered with Crime Stoppers since my nephew was murdered, and God for some reason placed me with these families who lost their loved ones to gun violence. And so I'm honored on one hand, but on the other hand, you know, conflicted. And so, but I know this is a subject that needs to be talked about, and our children, your children, their voices are through you at this point. And in other communities, they have parades, you know, they doing tournament, they do all kind of stuff in honor of their children. Yeah. And we just have to do more.
Yeah.
Do it.
We have to do more.
Yeah.
We need some scholarships, some foundations. They will grab each other and put on some fundraisers to continue the voice of their children, their legacy. Yeah. And so it's just so much to be done. Of course, we know if they didn't let the guns come into the community, that would ice it. And that's a whole different conversation. I know one of the things Crime Stoppers is working on is conflict resolution in the communities and in the schools. Just trying to get that conversation going about anger and about, you know, the way young people view life now is different than when we were coming up. And so we just live in a different world. But I believe God, and I believe that there is some triumph in the tragedy.
Absolutely.
And I think God just led me to pull this all together to see what we're going to do next. Because there's more to be done. And so I know Michelle is here. She's the therapist on the show, but I know we have to close up soon. So what I want to do is each of you just share with us one powerful statement about who your son was. And then we probably close out, of course, with some next steps and just see what we can do next. So I want you to call out your son.
I am certainly with you on that. My cousin, his name is Raquel Peterson. He's one of the deputies inside the school. He's working on that initiative you just spoke about, conflict resolution to our young people. they don't understand. So we do have to take them to that place. But I just want to let you know that when I think about my son, just a giver. One young lady drove all the way from Alabama. Said he was a perfect gentleman. She had to stay at his apartment. He didn't have but one bed. Guess what? He slept on the floor. And she said, I never seen anything like that. Some guy would have been trying to get into bed with her, but he slept on the floor. So he was always giving. And just for the jit part, just so the family, y'all keep praying for me. And no, not I was shot in my back in '86, and I was paralyzed, and they told me I wasn't gonna walk again. But I had a praying grandmother, so I told God if He got me up off that bed, I was gonna celebrate Him, no matter where I was gonna be at.
Yes,
Lowe's,
Lord.
Myers, Kroger, didn't matter. I was
Yes,
gonna
Lord.
celebrate God whenever He hit me. So you
And
might
you
catch me
do.
in the aisle at Kroger dancing. So because I had a think praise, So, but yeah, the bullet is still in my back, but yeah, we're dancing.
Amen.
Hey,
And I
can
and
I?
I just want to say, oh, go ahead.
No, 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 no. You go.
I just want to say, and I know Damien want to talk about Deontay, but my nephew Deontay, he was a go getter and he was very determined.
Yeah.
And he left here. He was in a recording studio when it happened, and he was a rapper, and his name was Honesty. And I'm proud of my brother because he started a brand. Honesty is a brand, and his face is on the t-shirts, and he has wonderful sayings, and I wear those shirts proudly, like, all the time. They t-shirts, I got all that. I wear them in the summertime and the wintertime, and when people ask me about the shirt, I tell them what it means to me. And I was honored to be his auntie, and I was honored for him to be my nephew. And I always think about ways to keep his memory and his legacy alive. He has children, and my brother got it started, and we gonna keep it going, and we're gonna add some more stuff to that. But I just wanted to know that he was an excellent rapper. He was a beautiful soul, and he knew what he wanted, and he went for what he wanted, and he had more courage than the average person do today, right now.
Man, can I say this? I want to
Yeah,
Dion
go ahead.
spoke. I know that going through this, sometimes you feel like you're alone, and I don't know. On this live, I feel like I've made some connections, and I would like to, Dr. Ease, if you could kind of give exchange numbers so we can stay together and walk together through this. I think it's better together. So on days where you weak, I may be a little bit stronger that day, and we can help each other as we continue to navigate through this journey. So I really would like to do that. I feel like um, there's a connection. There's a reason why we all were on this podcast together. And if you guys don't mind, I would like to exchange numbers with you, and let's stay in touch, and let's walk together through this.
Definitely. I'll
Absolutely.
make sure I give on. And just before we go, I want you all to know
Amen.
that this is the man that walked me to Second Ebenezer Church uh 30 some years ago and dropped me off.
30 years ago, 30 years. I'm only
Amen.
37. So wait a
I
minute.
know, right? So that's another story, but I
Yeah.
wanted, he made sure I had somewhere to go because he knew how crazy, but that's another story. But anyway, go ahead.
I'm done. Go.
Who?
Um, I'll go next. So this was my son Steven. I don't know if you can see him.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So he was a warm person. He wanted to be a basketball player. He was an all A student, and he graduated from the UD Jesuit, but he was on the basketball team, head of the team, and he wanted to go away to play basketball at school. He went to he went off to school, and he said, "Well, Mama, I'm not used to sitting down," because they wanted him to sit down on the bench for the first year at Bowling Green. He then wanted to be he always loved music. When he was a kid, he used to just dance for no reason. He knew all the moves and all the songs. And so he was selling CDs in college to all the security, to the teachers, and every, his superiors were buying music from him. And then he would make his own music, and he started doing videos and music, and I'm like, what are you doing, uh so then he went off into he started working for uh Chrysler headquarters. And he said, Mom, I'm meant to be an entrepreneur. I need to work for myself, because he was doing stuff with his grandfather and selling bikes and building them. He's always liked to work for himself. And I remember one of his friends that he was trying to help him get his business off the ground. And he said, Ma'am, he said, Miss Mumford, I've never met anybody like your son. I've never had a friend like him. He not only helped me keep my business open, but um, he said that he would buy my stuff, and he said he would wear it. He wouldn't try to get a discount. He said, and he just helped me. And when he didn't show up, he was always supporting me. And he said when he didn't show up to my, they had I don't know what it's called, but an open house or whatever, a second, when they come out and celebrate the opening. And when he wasn't there, he knew something was wrong, because he was always, supportive of him. So I knew he was going to be doing something big, because he was so determined. He was so determined to just be great. He used to, my cousin was a nursing student, and she said, my little cousin taught me statistics. She said, I felt so stupid. She said, because he was so young,
Mhm.
but he was so smart. He was a math and science. Uh, he went on a full scholarship for math and science. So he was smarter than me, his mama. And so he always was a researcher. So if you didn't know what you were talking about, like, I couldn't say just anything off my top of my head, because he said, Mama, nah, that don't make sense. Now let me, and he'll go to the facts. He was a factual person. And so, I just want to honor his life. I wanted to start up a foundation with UAD Jesuit to help send some kids to school, because I said, what would he love for me to do? He would love to see some kids get an education like he had. And then when COVID happened, it kind of just got put on the back burner. So that's how I would want his legacy to go on with his name. And he was just a big lover and hugger. He hugged everybody, and he hugged them hard. And you knew that he meant it, And we just all miss him. We still miss him, and uh, try to keep his. I thank God for allowing us to have his daughter, because it's just like looking at him. I said, well, God bless me to be able to look into his eyes again. Looking at his daughter. Um, we struggle a lot, because they haven't finished this case. But I used to thank God. I thought, oh my God, you always told me that you would protect my kids. Like, I never worried about it. And so that was my struggle with God, because I felt like, I thought he was always covered. I never thought, I never worried about anything happening to he was my only son, and he was the oldest. And so I just, like I said, I fight with God a lot. And then I realized, hey, why not me? You know what I'm saying? It could happen to anybody. But I was thinking, like, what makes me so special? God did it. God had to do that with his own son.
Mm.
So I know he knows my pain, and he'll help me walk
Yeah.
me through it. So I'm sorry.
Amen.
Monique.
Um, the one thing we always remember my son by, his name was Deontay, and he loved to rap, so he just was getting his feet wet a little bit with it. And his name was Hercules. So I just right now I'm just building up my strength to try to put one foot in front of the other and try to start a legacy. Like I said, I want to do one where it's some funding to help these the children's mother with an absent parent, because somebody gunned them down. The state don't give them but a little piece of change, and if they weren't old enough or work long enough, they don't have anything in their bank. So, like my granddaughter, well, grandkids, they don't get anything but what the state gonna give them. And so, and I take good care of all my grandkids, especially them three little girls. But I just want, you know, see if we could try to help somebody else in this situation too, because I know God always say when you be a blessing, we always will be blessed. So,
Amen. So Frederick, the one who posted, he said his son Jamal was a great young man, a man who had a heart of gold and would give the shirt off his back if it was meant for the people he cared about to prosper. He was larger than life to him. So we have a couple of minutes. Michelle, would you like to give any encouraging words? And then we will close out.
Thank you, Dr. Eason. I want to say to each of you, I do not know your pain. I have not walked in your shoes. I want you to know that my heart goes out to you, and I am going to be. I am in my prayer room, having this conversation with you all in my prayer room, and I want you to know that I am going to believe God where you can.
Mm,
If it's not in you to do it, when on those days where you are weak, I want you to know that I am going to believe God for your peace. And the fact that you are able to get out of bed every day. Sometimes people just got to have something to say. And sometimes you just want to say, just don't say anything. And one thing that they say is just take one day at a time. I don't tell people I love and my students, my clients, I don't tell them to take one day at a time. I tell them to take one moment at a time,
mm, good.
because then your moments will lead to minutes. Your minutes will lead to hours. Your hours will lead to that. You work up to taking one day at a time,
Yeah.
but just to take one day at a time. And I pray that God allows you and gives you peace in your new normal. We don't have children thinking that one day
All
we
right.
may have to bury them. I cannot begin to imagine. And the only thing I can imagine is that's the hardest thing any parent could ever do. There was an assignment that God gave you, and that was to bring forth your children, who then had an assignment by God, and that assignment was fulfilled. Is that said to make you feel any better about the loss? Absolutely not. But that you poured into your children made them who they are, not who they were, who they are. Their memories still live on. Their spirits still live on. There are moments that you will have, and I pray that God give you a garment of praise for a spirit of heaviness. When you feel like you can't go on, if you rest, when you wrestle with God and you argue with God, like, are you for real? Like,
Yeah.
me, even me, can he trust you with it? Like, he is he is a sovereign God. And where you might not even want to hear that, when you get to the point where you can receive it, not that it's pushed on you, when you get to a point that you can receive it, and you will get to that point. That's how sovereign he is. He
Yeah.
is a sovereign God. He will teach you to say, it is well with my soul. And
I'm,
that is my prayer, that one day you will walk in wellness and wholeness, knowing that you did everything that you could do. And where it is unfair, I often ask God, well, why me? Why not you? Can I trust you with it? And oftentimes when we go through things in life, it's not for us. It's for somebody else to see if she went through that or if he went through that and made it on the other. So surely I can take one step at a time. I heard you say, Miss Wright, that, even getting out of bed, putting one foot in front of the other. When you put that one foot in front of the other, that's a step closer to your victory and closer to your peace, a peace that surpasses all understanding. Because you took that step, it gets you one step closer to that peace that God wants you to have, that you will be able to have in your daily walk. And I encourage you all to have your moments. Don't fight it. And I applaud the men. Don't fight it. Have your moments. Because if you don't, and it's all bottled up, and you keep it all bottled up, it's kind of like a pop can. And then you shake up this pop can. As soon as you click it up, it just explodes.
mm-hmm.
Have your moments. Be in the moment. because then that moment is going to get you to the next moment. And then, you know, you have to walk out the journey, because this is what God has ordained for your life for such a time as this. And I pray for y'all. Your names are, look, your names are I'm in my prayer room. Your
Thank
names are
you.
in my prayer room. And now I'm responsible for you. I just logged in to support Dr. Eason. But hey, here I am. Here I am. And so I love you all. I pray for you.
Thank
Um,
you.
I pray that I
Thank you.
pray that one day you will be able to say, whatever my lot,
Thou hast taught me.
thou hast taught me to say, or whatever my lot, God teach me to say, it is well with my soul. I pray for you and I pray for your families. Dr. Issa, thank you for having me. Thank you all.
Thank you
Thank
for
you.
coming on.
Amen.
Anyone else before
Amen.
I close us out quickly? Well, today my pastor preached. He titled his message "Hang in There."
Mm.
And one of my favorite scriptures, if you don't mind me sharing, is the afflictions of the righteous availeth much, but the Lord, and I leave it at that,
Deliver them out of all.
delivereth them out of them all. And I'm just really full right now. The fact that you all are here, the courage, the power of God, and just look how far you've come. I can't imagine. So you all are teaching us about resilience and courage and faith. And so I thank you tonight for joining us and for this conversation. And I feel like another conversation is going to be coming on
Yeah.
real soon. So I'll make sure everyone has each other's contact information to continue this conversation. And so if no one has anything else, may the peace of God rest upon you tonight, and know that this is also on YouTube, and I know it's going to bless some other people. So have a good night.
Good night.
Good
You
night,
too.
everyone.
Thank you. Good night.
Join Dr. Christal Eason every other Sunday at 7 p.m. for Finally I Choose Me, where your purpose and authenticity join together. We look forward to you participating in the discussion. We agree with God about who we say we are. Please join us.